We are now here at the basin of the Tralee ship canal. The basin was the part of the canal that when the boats came in, they queued up here at the basin and tied up, and their loads were taken off. Loads of timber and coal, wines and spirits and spices from all over the world were landed here, where there was storage and warehousing and chandleries. A lot of the major companies in town, Toomey's and Donovan's, McCown's and Latchford's, had ships coming in here weekly. The canal was, the Act of Parliament for the canal was sponsored by Lord Malgrave and the local MPs at the time. In and around 1829, the bill was passed to sanction the money for the canal. The canal was opened in and around 1835 to great fanfare. There were 16 bands here on the night, and it was a night time it was opening because they had to go with the tidal flow on that occasion. The ships were waiting in the harbour for the tide to turn so that the canal would be filled, and there was enough water outside to bring the boats into the canal where they tied up. On that occasion there were 16 bands, I think 6 or 8 temperance bands. Now, I don't drink myself, but it would be very hard to find the makings of one temperance band now, not alone 16. When we were young, this was a great area of play. We had some great fun here. We used to build rafts and we'd come down here. I remember one time bringing a bath all the way from Oak Park, which was at the other side of town. It took us 2 days to carry it from Oak Park to this place here, where we set it afloat and pushed it out into the water, where it sank almost immediately. It was too heavy. The author and businessman Vincent O'Mahony, who now lives in the Kerrys, I heard him describing one night at a Toastmasters meeting how he was a failed political assassin. And the reason for that title, he said, was when Dick Spring was very young, 3-4 years of age, the older boys of the area, which was Strand Road, which is behind our backs, behind these houses here, they were playing here, and they put him into a tin bath. You know, the ones, you've seen them in the cowboy pictures, the ones that would be stood in the middle of a kitchen floor filled with hot water, and the family would bath in it. They put the young Dick Spring, who later went on to be the Deputy Prime Minister of Ireland and Minister for Foreign Affairs. At that time, innocently, he was put in the bath, and the bath was sailed out into the middle of the canal, where it sank, almost carrying the would-be politician with it. Depending on what your political view is, whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, the fact that he survived. Dick Spring went on to be leader of the Labour Party in Ireland in the years that followed, and went on to play international rugby for Ireland. The canal is now used by the local canoeing club for a training ground. I'm recording this on a Saturday morning. It would be normally busy with canoeists training for their sport. There'd be boats rowing up and down here, which makes a beautiful sight. Underneath me here there's a pontoon, because it is the intention of the local council to turn this to an amenity area. We're here now in a part of the town where we're looking up Prince's Quay, and we're standing at the roundabout at the bottom of Ballog Hill, and the roundabout lies silent and still. There's normally a fountain here which flows and has been silent since the start of the lockdown, the COVID lockdown. The name of the area here is Malgraves Bridge, dedicated to the memory of Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, Malgrave, who sponsored the bill to have the Tralee ship canal built. In Ireland we have a tendency to name things in honour of politicians, saints, revolutionaries or football players, or sometimes even both revolutionaries and football players. And in the case of this roundabout, it is dedicated to the memory of Paddy Paul Fitzgerald, who played football for Kerry and is from this area. We're here at the bottom of Ballog Hill, where as youngsters we would make bogies from using pram wheels, little timber go-karts, and we would come down the hill. The hill is at the back of the trees there you see in front of us. We could, if we started above, the momentum would carry us down almost to here. One of our friends would look out and keep an eye on traffic. There'd be a car every now and again, but the car would be stopped when the go-kart was coming, with maybe 2 or 3 of us inside it. Across the road is the gate for the the railway steam train that has been running for the last few years, that goes from Tralee to Blennerville, a recreation of part of the Dingle line, where in Blennerville there is a model railway exhibition which is closed at the moment but normally open to the public. Across the road from where I'm standing now stood an old derelict house when we were growing up, where a man by the name of Daddy Sheehy lived. Daddy's house was going into a cave, not Aladdin's cave, but he would be sitting by the fire with a big long bit of a tree trunk, maybe 6 or 8 feet long, with one end stuck in the fire, and as it burned he would push it further into the fire. How he survived, I don't know. The house would be full of smoke. The house where Daddy Sheehy lived was known locally as Curlew Lodge, because I suppose you could hear the sound of the curlew here this morning. Because of the incoming rain, the skies are filled with the sound of the seagull. I have now moved a little along the canal towards Blennerville, and I'm at the opposite side of the road. I'm looking in the houses of an area called Knockmile in Tralee, and across the road, unfortunately it's getting to be a busy road now, there is a private house built in those trees. The house was owned by Mr. Florence O'Connor, who built it, and was involved in the organising of the Festival of Kerry, one of the original organisers of it. The canal basin behind us, which I spoke about, had been filled in by the urban council. The local council of the day had sold it to a local builder for a nominal fee of £1, and he proceeded to fill it in. This was going back maybe 25-30 years ago. One Saturday morning, as the town was quiet, a young Gerard O'Brien, now a priest in San Diego in the United States, was walking along here. He was a teenage boy at the time, and he saw that they were beginning to build a road across the canal. He was disturbed by the idea of the canal being put into a state which it could never be used and never resurrected. Even at his young age, he went around back to the housing estate, or Rahilly's Villas, which lies at the back of this block of apartments, and he knocked on a few doors, and he met 3 men who were interested in saving the canal. One by the name of Con Dukes Hobart, a fella by the name of Gykes Morn, and a fella by the name of Mulderig Moriarty. They sound like 3 names out of the Sopranos movie. They came with him and they agitated and stopped the work in progress. But for the actions of Gerard O'Brien and the later intervention of local councillor Dennis Foley, who was living in Ballog in Tralee, the canal as an amenity would be lost to the town of Tralee. We're here now at the only private house that is along the canal bank. The house is in an island set between the tidal waters of Tralee Bay and the still waters of the canal in what I suppose is called a jetty running out almost the length of the canal. The house was owned in the 50s and into the 90s and by two brothers, the Lynch Brothers. They were butchers in Rock Street in Tralee, and one of their hobbies was the rearing of Irish wolfhounds. The brothers sent wolfhounds, Irish wolfhounds, to all over the world. In actual fact, it is said that one of their Irish wolfhounds was the mascot for the Irish Guards in the British Army for a number of years. The two brothers and their nephew ran the shop in Rock Street in Tralee. Their nephew John, all three now are sadly deceased. Their nephew John was married to a Rock Street girl, Hannah Cornan, whose family were prominent in Rock Street in Tralee. Our lockdown finishes today at the point where the canal enters the sea, approximately 2 kilometres from the basin. Across the road are the derelict homes, goats grazing where the lock gatekeeper lived at one time. The water is gushing out of the canal now because this morning early there was a high tide and the tidal current overfilled the canal, so it's emptying now its surplus water. The canal was first built because the port of Ballog, into which all the ships would sail at the time, began to silt up and became unusable. That was before Feenet Pier was developed into the port it is today.